Hello and welcome to Coffee Time with Real Women. Have you ever felt like you have had a greater purpose in life? Have you ever felt like there were things in your life that were holding you back from finding your own personal success or your own true happiness? It's actually more common than you think. Today we're going to touch on these important questions as we chat with intuitive trauma healing specialist, Jennifer Escalera. We're going to find out a little bit about her and her journey and get some of her very own words of wisdom. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Coffee Time with Real Women. I am Laryssa Slaton, the founder of the Coffee Time with Real Women community. I am so excited today to introduce my very special guest, and she's here to discuss a very important topic today about defining success and finding your true self. And she's such the perfect person to do this with. Mainly, she is a intuitive trauma healing specialist, which is, well, do a little bit of my expertise on how this is, but it's how trauma impacts the body, mind, and spirit. She is the founder of the Mystic Living School. She's a licensed psychotherapist, and her studies include a range of energy psychologies, vibrational medicines, and sound therapies. And this lovely girl right here, her name is Jennifer Escalera.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you can be here today. If anybody has gone to our site or has read the description to this podcast, they're going to see a lot of credentials behind your name.
Yes, yeah.
So before we get started and we get too far into this, can you just explain to us a little bit of what those mean?
Yes, that's a great question. So I started out with my bachelor's degree in political science and sociology, and at that time I was really interested in politics. I've always known that I've had an interest in helping people, but I didn't really know what my calling was yet. So got really involved in politics and that kind of thing. But then it didn't feel right. So I got into counseling and I started learning about social work, and that kind of met my needs of being of service, being someone in the helping profession, as well as being political. I could still stay within my activism. And then along the way, I got my license, so I'm also a licensed clinical social worker.
So that's the
That's the LCSW.
Okay,
so,
license. Okay.
Yeah.
That's your license. What is the TCT?
TCT, that's transcrystal therapy, and what that is, that's transcrystal therapy. That is using crystals to balance the chakra centers. It's for people who, are wanting a more natural way to heal themselves, and using vibrational energy from the crystals to help whatever part of their challenge or whatever part of relaxation that they're looking for.
And the other one was the CH.
The CH, so that's a certified hypnotherapist.
Ah.
Yes.
So if you guys feel like you're losing your mind a little bit, you feel like you're zoning out, you might just be hypnotized. Right. Just kidding. But that's awesome. I was curious about that myself. I figured out what the social worker was, but I thought, okay.
Right.
And
yes.
I just wanted to make sure all of our viewers and our listeners here also understood what that meant, of course, too, because when they research you, they need to know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So as we go back into defining success, and talking about all of her credentials, and just sort of bringing that home a little bit to how everybody thinks, if you have a lot of credentials, if you have publications, if you're a master speaker, or how much net worth you have in your bank account, or what you have really defines your success. But we're here to define your own personal success. So being the fact that you have a lot of credentials, and we can, as a society, can say you are a successful person, but what does success and personal success actually look like to you?
Well, it's definitely about feeling happy and loving what you do. feeling satisfied, that you have this gift, you appreciate, you're in a state of gratitude. And there's a sense of humility when you are in that state of personal success. You're also in a state of being of higher service. For me, I've always been a spiritual person. So from my experience of understanding what my personal success is that I was born to help people. And I'm in this now position in my life where I've evolved in my gifts, in my skills, and what my ancestors have given me as well. My lineage has provided for me to be able to be of service. So there's a sense of that accomplishment. It's not so much about how much I make or how many people I can serve. It's in the knowing that I'm going to make a difference in someone's life, and it's going to be this spiraling effect, that is going to make the bigger impact, because I'm only one person.
Exactly.
And if I can reach someone, and now a lot of times my clients are teachers themselves, or they are in the helping profession, or they're healers themselves. So I know that I'm making a contribution because I'm helping them, and then therefore they can help their clients or their families and communities, and we're all part of making this world a better place.
Right, right. So really, I think the building block, and it's not just the fact that we're trying to make that's what the series is about, but I really and truly believe that really defining that for yourself and defining what you really want in your life. So you'll hear us talk a lot about this particular topic, not just in today's video or podcast, but also with this entire series, because I really want people to understand this isn't just about having Jennifer sit here and talk about her journey, and we love what she does and we love her, but it's also about how are you going to take these topics and apply them to your own true happiness and your own definition of personal success. So I'm so glad that we have someone like you here today in order to talk about some of these things, because I just really and truly believe that there's a lot of us out there who like to compare ourselves, especially when it comes to success. And I am not omitted from those people.
Right.
I do, especially in trying to get this series started, it's easy to compare yourself to somebody else and say they're more successful, they have more to say, they have more, whatever it is, fill in the blank, basically. But it's really and truly important for all of us to define that for ourselves before we get started, because personal success to you may look completely different than personal success to me, or your best friend, or the people on social media, or whomever. Everybody's at a different stage in life, and we all come at it from a different perspective and a different upbringing and a different environment. So before we get started on this, I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that now is the time for them to understand what that personal definition is for themselves.
And I think too that there's a level of self-acceptance that you have to really own. It's part of letting go of certain perfectionistic kind of thinkings or expectations, unrealistic expectations. So there's a lot of the process of surrendering.
Oh, very good.
And working through some of the ego that can get into our own psyche that plays with our fullest potential. So I think going along those kind of journeys of dealing with that shadow work of what our ego is doing to us and whether it's serving us, so it's even honoring your ego and being able to thank your ego for giving you the strength to have the will to want to do something that's creative or helping people or whatever it is.
So to take one, go ahead and listen to the full podcast. But we're just going to sit and chat here for a little bit longer about Jennifer for the sake of the video. So I definitely have some other things I want to get back into as well. So for those of you who have not listened to the podcast, this will be sort of a little bonus feature for them. And to opening, I want to touch a little bit more on your shadow work and how you described the self-acceptance piece of it.
Okay. So the shadow work is about you understanding and then eventually accepting that there are there's a duality about ourselves. There's the shadow and the light. So the shadow is about the things that we are not proud of. They're the things that we try to suppress or dumb down, we try to ignore. And those are examples of like our insecurities, our jealousies, our perfectionisms, and just things that limit us from being our fullest potential. And so how I see how to work with your shadow is being able to use it to your benefit. So let's say that you're dealing with a lot of stress. Okay, that could be like shadow work, right? Like an over exhausted amount of stress, not like your everyday normal stress. Your shadow is trying to tell you something, right? It's trying to let you know you need to slow down or to start listening to your body, because maybe there's something going on with your health, or maybe there's something that you're still needing to work on to let go of. And so the shadow work is to say, okay, all right, I may not love you, but you're trying to tell me something. You're actually trying to help me. And so the light part, the light of you, and that's the part of you that is, you know, the very free-flowing, it's the creative, it's the, you know, non-judgmental, it's the light part, you know, right? The more peaceful sense of yourself. So using that part of you to be able to navigate through some of the limitations that you're going through, like the stress, you're eventually going to be able to find wholeness in your capacity. Or maybe it's just, well, I need to call or see someone, whether it's a shaman or a doctor, you know, or a nutritionalist. Maybe I need to find out what's going on in my body, and that's why my shadow
is trying to tell you something.
Is trying to tell me something about why I'm so easily stressed out. And so it's eventually going to help you. So for those of us who, and we all have a shadow, the shadow is never going to go away. And so it's learning also how to accept your shadow, because it's there for a purpose. It's there to help you.
So in working with the shadow and coming back down to our foundation, I know we got off track a little bit for this video, but we had discussed a little bit about your credentials and being a licensed psychotherapist, and sometimes that could, you know, the traditional forms of mental health therapy can be a little bit different than working with the metaphysical side of it. In the podcast, we did not get to talking about the mystical school that you did.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Sure. So the mystical school, it's an online school, and it's really to help teach people about metaphysical, meaning how to use natural ways, like with crystals or with sound, or rituals, using ceremony, to help you to heal a part of something that's going on, maybe psychologically or health-wise. So with the school, it's helping me to go beyond just the mental health.
Okay.
You know, and it's also for people who are looking for something beyond just mental health. But knowing that I have a background in it, you know, I can speak to it. I understand mental health. And so there's rituals and practices that you can start to use in your everyday life to help you to work on self-acceptance, if that's, you know, the key thing that you're wanting to work on. And so whether it's learning about chakra centers or chakra balancing, learning about the different ways of working with your body, or learning how to use meditation. Let's say, for example, how do you find a self-care practice in meditation? How do you use the practices of meditation to be in your everyday life that makes you more gentle to yourself, or more self-loving with yourself, you know? And so that's the intention of my school, is to be able to teach people, you know, these ancient tools and wisdoms to be able to go beyond just the mind, and giving them real hands-on tools.
So not only do you work with them, you also run classes to help others or individuals help themselves, in a sense.
Exactly.
To give them the tools to teach them to learn how to use some of the methods that you use in your own processes of therapy, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So it's also teaching people about the different chakra centers that we have all over our body. You know, we don't just have 7 centers; they're all over everywhere. So it's also teaching people, like some people might have headaches, and so it's, you know, working on a certain area of your hand, and teaching people how to use essential oils to waken themselves with maybe peppermint, you know, or ways to concentrate, you know, using things that I didn't invent. You know, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. the wheel has already been made.
Right.
You know, these ancient tools, these spiritual tools are gifts that have been given to me, and so I want to be able to teach people and share them with people. Mm-hmm.
Awesome, awesome. And I think that's wonderful that you're taking it a step further in therapy, not just saying you have to learn this and here and have somebody like yourself do it for somebody, but to also teach them, for them to take some tools and be able to have their own self-evolution, which is...
Exactly. Well, I think part of my, what would you call it? I guess part of the foundation of the work that I do is teaching personal responsibility. Or personal accountability. So if you're going to invest in me, how I'm going to invest in you is to teach you these things, and then therefore it's up to you to create whatever tool I gave to you. It's up to you how you want to create it. It's like an ingredient. I'm going to give you the recipe, and then you can make it yourself.
Wow.
You are the expert of yourself, but I am here to just guide you, to give you that, and then we work together on how is that, improving an area of your life or just your life in general.
Wow, very good.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and talk about your journey a little bit.
Sure.
Which we got to quite a bit extensively within our podcast, but I'm going to go ahead and redo the quote.
Sure.
If that's good. We're going to start with self-love is love. And going back to our own personal definition of success and defining for ourselves and being given the tools through you, can you kind of give us a little bit more insight with, using that quote? It was one of your quotes that you gave us. Can you give us a little bit more insight about maybe even using that as a mantra, or,
So self-love is love. That's just that mantra that reminds you that it's okay to be self-loving. It's okay to take time for yourself. It's okay to need someone to help you to find that structure. So if there's tools, it would be that first get an idea of what your self-love is going to look like, or what kind of love do you want. Just like I use the example of, if you're going to have a goal or you need a destination, you need to find out where you're going. You need to figure out and get clarity around what self-love looks like to you. Don't worry right now about the steps of how you're going to get there, but just know, how are you defining self-love? So you can journal, you can write. Maybe you need to go outside and go for a walk and be out with the sun or the moon, or under a new moon or a full moon, and meditate, like, okay, what is my self-love going to look like? And then just intuitively, just without judging, write down what those descriptions of your self-love are. And then from there, then you go backwards. Then you start filling in the blocks of how you're going to get to that destination. And then eventually it feels like, okay, I can do this. I can learn how to love myself. I can learn how to be self-accepting. And whether it's through books or whether it's through working with me or other podcasts or podcasts like this, it's finding the synchronicities in those steps to be able to confirm that you're on the right path. So that's also another confirmation of letting you know that you are doing what you need to do in your highest good, and to not give up on yourself or your potential, because the journey can be challenging. The journey is going to have temptations to get you out of it. So that's where going beyond just your mental health, that's where using other tools like meditation can help you to ground and be centered, to say, okay, I'm going to take it one day at a time, and then pace yourself.
Which is hard to do in today's society. We want everything now. And we're in the age of instant gratification.
That's right.
So just trying to slow things down and
so
focus on ourselves is not always easy.
Right. So even in that, if you're finding that you're creating blocks, if you're creating excuses, I can't do this, I can't do that, it's so hard, or I should have known this. These are all negative, low vibrations, and they continue to manifest a self-sabotaging, approach. So if you want to break that, then it's, okay, this is what I'm going to do, or this is going to happen. You're reframing it in a positive, higher vibrational message to yourself, to your subconscious, which is the unconscious part of your unknowing. When you start to speak to that part of you, then you can feel more deeply and have more passion about feeling better and loving yourself and feeling safe.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a really great concept.
Thank you.
Well, you know, especially as we're going, as who we are today and the hustle and bustle of today's life, you know, we touched, again, we touched on this a little bit within the podcast, but I think it's important enough to discuss again, is the fact that, you know, those self-limiting behaviors and the thoughts of really pushing down some of our maybe we may think it's negative talk, or we may think it's selfish, or we may think it's hard to, you know, I can't think about myself. I have to put others first, especially women. I know a lot of us women, and I know I've battled that most of my life. I have to put everybody in front of me. I have to, you know, we have kids, we have a job, we have a household to run, we may have animals, we may have, you know, the list goes on. We are meant to be superhuman sometimes, and it's easy for us to just say, especially if we're considered to be, you know, a spiritual human being or spiritual, and I've heard others say that I have to be positive all the time. I have to, and they don't want to let those pieces in of self-acceptance. It's part of who we are, and I just really think that's such an important concept that you have brought to the table here.
So I think too that that's also when we get into that hustle and bustle, the fast pace, we are not connecting to our roots, you know, the root chakra. So if we're going to talk about our energy centers, this would be a good place to start, is working with your root chakra, working through the sense of safety. You know, the hustle and bustle is just the static of not feeling safe or not feeling trustworthy of something, or maybe it's something ancestral or a family belief system that you were brought up with. You know, you've been domesticated to believe that you got to work hard to make it. You know, and so if we are still carrying those belief systems, we are not grounding ourselves, you know, and then having the belief system that we need to stay positive, or we need to have, you know, that perfect face or that perfect outfit or that perfect hair. You know, I could have done my hair today, and I'm like, I just didn't have time. I'm a working mom. I just need to put makeup on and that. You know, that's a whole process of learning how to accept myself, but it's in that space of rooting. You know, of being able to ground myself. And I'm not perfect at it, but if we can accept grounding and finding our sense of security within, not outside, you know, then it's we can build in or step into our personal power.
You just summed it all up right there. I don't even have anything to say after that.
Yeah.
That was really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, that's the truth. That's all I can speak to, is just that.
Well, that is true. It sums up everything that I've, you know, even Coffee Time with Real Women. It's about being real and being who we are, and coming into our own self-worth, our own true happiness, and really finding that basic foundation block. And I think that really what I'm starting to understand, even through our talk today, that really grounding ourselves, and it's not just about understanding where we start from, but it's also grounding through our root chakras, and that's where a lot of it kind of comes from. Am I thinking that in a correct way?
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you start from the crown, if you're starting from more of the heavenly, the divine, you know, you can be too spacey, too out in the spacey world, in the higher vibrational, and that could actually cause stress. You know, but coming from the root, from Mother Earth, from the organic of our roots. So if you can visualize the actual roots planting into your world, just your world, it's not everyone else's, but if you can see the roots, if you can visualize, maybe you're visualizing roots that are old. So maybe you need to start cutting old roots and start imagining and creating new roots so that they're fresh and they're new. And so through that foundation, you're building yourself back up, versus being here. You know, I'm not saying to not be here all the time, but here you might be too airy, you know, too much in the clouds, to where you don't have the structure, or you don't have the capacity to be present, because you're like in this dream altered consciousness. We don't, for most of us, we don't live in kind of the Buddhist, you know, monk style, priest kind of style living.
We live in reality. We live in this. We have everything and external factors going on around us every day that we have to be a part of.
Right. And if you're a working mom, and if you're up here all the time, you know, that's just going to cause more stress. So if you're in the higher realms, So really rooting yourself, if you're the type of energy that is in that hustle and bustle, and just taking time for that balance of wholeness. And it's not to say don't ever be hustle bustle or don't ever be.
There's a time and a place, but we have to bring it back.
So it's pacing. It's pacing your energy, it's pacing your time and your intention. Because even those things is what manifests something that happens in 6 months. That's also another philosophy that I've learned over the years, is that through my journey, is that planning things in 6 months helps you to also pace yourself. And it also allows you to talk to that future self and being able to say, okay, where do I want to be? Where do I imagine myself to be in 6 months? And having that vision, or maybe like when you're not meeting your fullest potential, you can ask yourself, am I really serving my 6 month self? You know, so bringing you on that kind of journey as well can hold you accountable, and then asking for outside support if you need it.
Right.
You know, if you're struggling with that.
And that's where others can come to you, and they can seek you for guidance for either private counsel, or they can come to one of your classes.
Exactly.
And now they can even download
my Sacred Sound Healing
your
album.
Sacred Sound Healing album.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great way to meditate and to figure out, you know, your self-acceptance and your life path. You know, if you need to vision, if you're looking for, you know, maybe you are struggling financially, you know, or you're struggling with your own beauty, and not meaning like a physical beauty, but the beauty within. I mean, that's what this album is about. It's using Lakshmi's magic to be able to bring in that essence of the energy, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? I do believe everything happens for a reason, and what needed to be said was said. I'm glad it happened this way.
Good. Me
now.
too.
So
Me too.
because we were able to touch on a few more things that got a little bit more in depth that we wouldn't have been able, or we didn't get to touch on before due to time, and this was a little bit of a bonus feature for everybody. So
thank you.
again, so glad that everything that you got here and everything worked out the way that it did.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So her website,
www.jenniferescalera.com, and you can download a free MP3. It's a guided meditation with sacred sound. So I'm playing some of my crystal singing bowls and other instruments to help you to manifest love and self-love. It's a great little journey. You can do that, or you can download my album, and you can just go on my website and you'll be able to see the link that takes you to Lakshmi's magic.
Nice. So you'll also find some of her upcoming events that she's got going on. You can go to her website to find out exactly some of the things she's doing, or you can go to the coffeetimewithrowwomen.com website. She also get to keep up with her, find out some more information about her. Also, if you need to, I can post a direct link to your download there too.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
so we can do that.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to end it there.
Awesome.
Thank
you. Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So good. Thank everybody for sticking around to hear a little bit of bonus time and some bonus information. And follow Jennifer, follow coffeetimewithrowwomen.com. And as always, keep it real and keep it powerful. Thank you.